What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to No Cap Space. It's Andrew, it's Tyler, and a special guest to kick off what is going to be a massive week of March Madness coverage on No Cap Space. Breathless from first four to Final Four to national title. And to be able to try and adequately preview all this, we have to bring in the biggest of big guns. It's from our friends in media, it's from our friends in basketball, and that's why, to kick us off, we're starting with a legend. Part of the Southwest Conference All-Decade Team, SWC Player of the Year, two-time team MVP, not only a WNBA champion with the Houston Comets in 1997, but most famously a national champion with the 1986 Texas Longhorns, the first undefeated NCAA champion in women's basketball history. It's Fran Harris.
Yeah.
All I did was the Chicago Bulls.
I know. It got me juiced up, and it wasn't even my resume, Fran. Like, that was.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
I'm excited, Fran. This is great. We had you in for our Legendarium series, Team of Destiny. Check it out, nocapspacewbb.com, to learn a little bit about the first undefeated team in NCAA women's basketball history. But Fran, that 86 championship, for those that don't know, was one of the best games of all time in terms of hype and energy. You guys on one end, USC on another, but your NCAA tournament resume is deep and it is long. And so I have to ask, what is your favorite NCAA tournament memory that you have from your playing days?
It's a toss-up, and it shouldn't be a toss-up. It should be, hey, winning the championship, got the best team in the land, beating the best player in the land is Cheryl Miller. But the sweetest moment was actually beating the team that knocked us out of the 85 road to the Final Four, and that was Western Kentucky. So beating, I mean, literally, it was so prophetic to lose to them in 85. We didn't get back to Austin for the Final Four, which we were hosting. We had to wait a whole year, and then we meet them up in the semifinals of the national tournament, and it was so sweet to beat them.
That's kind of interesting to me, because like we'll dive into the bracket and everything, but there's a couple games on here that are rematches, either from like earlier in the season or from last year's tournament. So like that's in mind, right? Like for all these teams, like if they took the last L, like that's something that's in the front of their mind going into this tournament. Yeah,
people say you never forget your first love. You never forget your first loss either. You never forget the team that knocked your butt out of the tournament or stop you from getting in. You know, you just never forget that. It just eats at you. It gnaws at you. Yeah. And I love those women. I've done interviews with Clement Haskins and Lily Mason, who made the shot heard around the world, and certainly around Texas, to knock us out in 85. And for them to retell those stories, I mean, like, as much as I love them, I just want to just sock them out every time we have to talk about getting knocked out. So it's been a real passionate journey for me.
That's one of my favorite things about this tournament every year is like we get great narrative stories, right? Like, and people think, oh, it's, you know, you put two teams on a basketball court and the better team schematically wins. There's like this whole emotional component that kind of comes into it too. There's the game within the game, the mindset, the mental. I'm very curious because of USC and Texas being on either side of the bracket. There is a possibility that we get a shade of 86 here if everything falls in the way we're interested in seeing it fall.
Yep.
But in your time with Texas and USC in the national championship, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Miller, Pam McGee, Paula McGee, Rondo, who was the best shit talker on that USC team? And in the first half, before you turned on the Jets to win that tournament, who was talking the most cash on that USC roster?
So in the 86 game, the McGees were gone, thankfully, because they are notorious shit talkers. Especially Pam. I don't know how opponents handled Paula, Coop, Cheryl, and Pam McGee at one time, because we know Coop was talking plenty shit. But yeah, in the championship game, all of our senior years, and Cheryl and Coop and I were seniors. It was Coop, because people always forgot about Coop. They were sleeping on Coop. And in our scouting report, our coach was like, Miller is Miller. But you know who cannot get off? It is Cynthia Cooper. And so we were focused on Coop, and she was talking plenty shit the whole game. Like, they can't guard me. Like, come on, like, give me the ball. Like, give me this ball. I mean, that is how Coop is just in life. So, and Miller was not having a great game. So it was extremely cool to see that, because when Cheryl Miller is on, she does acrobatic, high-flying things that work. And our defense was so good on her in that game, it just threw her off. Even though she may have ended up with double-digit points, she was not the Cheryl Miller that people had come to know in big-time games.
So what's the recommendation for your Texas Longhorns this year? Split a regular season series against South Carolina. They get into the SEC championship. South Carolina wins that running away. But you have a player in Madison Booker who is a dominant top-end scorer who has found trouble in certain respects against that team in particular.
Yeah.
What's the message to, like, find that mental edge again and know anybody can talk anything to you on the floor, but you know you're Texas and you know you can win this as a 1 seed.
Yeah, you gotta just let your play do the talking. I mean, I know how the internet is infamous for spreading infamous or famous shit talking, but I did hear that allegedly Madison said something to Bree Hall of South Carolina fame about her not being able to guard her, as in Booker saying she can't guard me. And that is, if that's true, because I don't know, the internet's full of fables. If that's true, we understand why Bree Hall had to do what she had to do. Yeah. And if that's true, then Madison Booker has learned a very, very important lesson. Right. And that is, let your talk be with the basketball. These people don't need any fire. They don't need any of that, especially late in the tournament where it really does become a game of who's going to win fatigue. It really does. And if you look at that, South Carolina is head and shoulders above anybody when it comes to the depth chart. So
Texas as that third 1 seed.
Yep.
A lot of consternation, a lot of questions from me. Even I wrote about it this morning in the column, saying, I wonder if you really stack the resumes up. I feel like the Longhorns are a little bit embattled in the public opinion sphere. So as one of the Longhorns' most high-level elite national title alums, what is the case here? That the seeding for Texas was the right seeding.
So I think Texas, if you look at Texas's body of work and you look at the actual criteria that we heard while watching the selection show yesterday, Texas belongs there. If you don't know all the rules for why teams get to where they are, I absolutely agree with popular opinion. Like, what the hell is Texas doing there? If you don't know that there's how you showed up in big games, how you showed up in losses, what your schedule was. So, unfortunately, most people have the last taste in their mouth of Texas's game versus South Carolina. And if you look at that, it was absolutely wretched. It was terrible. We didn't even look like we should be in the tournament. It was terrible. But that's how you're supposed to look against the best team in the country, right? So I can go either way. But yeah, I understand people saying, how does Texas get the number? Listen, I'm going to throw it back. You know how old people are. You remember when I was playing back in the day? People always doing that. But I remember them sending us to Louisiana Tech 2 years in a row. Now, Louisiana Tech, for you historians out there, you need to do your homework.
Oh, yeah.
And the Tech was the South Carolina of the day. So big post, except for they had everything. Big post players, Kim Mulkey, they were amazing. So we didn't appreciate them sending us to Ruston, Louisiana, not one time, but 2 times. And one of those times we were the #1 team in the nation, and we still got sent to them. So when I heard Dawn Staley talking about, we don't think we deserve this, and then I heard Lindsay, I think it's Lindsay, talking about USC, talking about that. I felt that, because I remember how we felt when we felt like, hey, we've lost 2 games. We've been dominant all year, and you're still going to send us to the best team in the nation in their building. We didn't appreciate that. So I kind of chuckled when I heard the coaches complaining about it, because there is a reason that there's a method to your madness when you're setting up your schedule. You're like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And then everything shakes out. We should be #1. The good old committee always really
Nobody doesn't like the committee.
Nobody doesn't like the committee. Like
good to know it hasn't changed.
No, at least this is the standard of it.
The committee remains eternal.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's rough. It's rough when you work, to be recognized and to be rewarded, because it's less recognition than it is just to be rewarded for playing tough teams, being great in great games. And then the committee, which, by the way, I'm not sure they made those rules public prior to the season. We need to hold the selection committee to a higher standard. We need your rules for getting to being number 1 seed. We need those on our desks by August 31st.
I like that rule.
Yeah, like let's go in like knowing what we're looking for the entire season, as opposed to finding out after we know the seeding. Yeah,
I get behind that. In college. It's like a professor in college tell you it's going to be multiple choice, and then there's going to be 2 essay questions. Why did you tell us that?
We need the rubric. I need to know how everything's weighted. I need the full rubric of everything. The percentages, like, is attendance mandatory? Like, what's going on here? Like, what are we doing? No, I can get
exactly.
I love this. I want transparency too. So in the interest of transparency,
yeah,
Tyler, why don't you pull it up if you can,
yes, sir,
and I will hand it over to you, because we got our bracket. For those that are watching, we have our ESPN bracket challenge. It is the No Cap Space bracket challenge with some great prizes and a whole lot of great people that are involved in it. Fran, I know you filled yours out, but we're going to go a little special here. Tyler can kind of move the bracket around as he sees fit. So take us to some spots here that you like an upset. Like, are there any Sweet 16 Cinderellas? Like, did you get a little crazy with any selections here?
I did a couple of brackets, and I usually just do one bracket because I think I'm right. So I was like, there's no need for 2 or 3 brackets. You're right. Needless to say, I haven't won the big prize, so I'm not right. But this year's going to be the charm. This is going to be the charm. So yes, I was when I start to look at the TCU that part
down here, the bottom right.
Yeah, when I started to look at who they would play as they progressed, it became a little bit. There's something about teams that have never done it before.
Yes,
they've never advanced very far, and people say, "Oh, you're just playing your best." No, there is a horse that gets on your back when you get to the precipice of a stage where you have not been before. And I feel like TCU is just playing really, really well. And if they can just continue like zoning all that stuff out, I think they're going to upset some people. I think they're going to upset as they progress, because they've got great point guard who's playing like she was playing at Louisville. That's the key part of that. They've got Sedona Prince, who is dominant, can shoot the free throw, can shoot the shot from the free throw line, can take you down low. So you have those components that you typically like to see in great teams. That's what Carolina had when they had Asia Wilson. Like, you couldn't stop Asia because there was an outside game. You couldn't stop the outside game because there was an inside game. And I think TCU is one of those teams that could really surprise some folks. So that's the first one that I think about. I also think about Oklahoma on the other side. And I know that's
Let's say, are we about to wait? Hold on, Fran. Hold on. Look, I got a hat for you right here if you need it. I got a hat for you here if you need it, Fran.
Palpitations. We interrupt this programming to Fran Harris just has heart palpitations.
No, Fran, I'm back. Let's hear it, Fran. Let's.
Oklahoma. Wow.
Oh, that just made my night, Fran. What are we thinking about Oklahoma, Fran? What are we thinking?
Listen, Oklahoma has a great coach. It's so weird. When I was doing my bracket and I kept selecting Oklahoma, I was like, what is going on with my cursor? My cursor is picking Oklahoma no matter who they're playing, because there's a tremendous, all jokes aside, there's a tremendous amount of respect. That is a great coach. That is a great coach. And what I love most about her is I love offensive coach. I love offensive coaches, because anybody and my teammates will tell you that I was never going to be defensive player of the year. And so whenever I see great offensive coaches, my mind goes to them as I look at these brackets. I realize I pick more offensive minded coaches to advance than defensive minded coaches. Ooh, that's gonna hurt some feelings.
I know. They say defense wins championships, but look, you're the one that's got the resume of the championship. So I don't know.
Lots of buckets, and that's what the great late Bill Russell said. This game will always be about buckets. I don't care about defense. I honestly don't. I care about buckets. So Oklahoma, I picked them to advance until they get to Connecticut.
I like that pick.
Okay.
So with that in mind, if this is about getting buckets, are we buying into the singular player that can get buckets or the team that gets buckets by committee? Because like I feel like every year we kind of have this discussion, right, about is it the coach in their system that's able to do this stuff, or can a generationally great player like a Caitlin Clark or a Cheryl Swoops before her in 93, like, can that singular player be the one to do it? Where do you stand on that? Are you more the system that provides the bucket getting can do it, or are we looking at singular greatness can get you over the hump here?
Yeah, I think buckets at the end of the day win. Bucket players who can get buckets are going to win. I mean, obviously, if your coach can put you in a system to make those buckets and manufacture those buckets easier for you, then that's gonna put you in a different ball game. But if there are people who there's head to head, and you've got an extreme defensive coach, and you've got an offensive coach who, no matter who he or she puts on the floor, they're getting 20 points a quarter. They're getting. I already know who's going to win. You're not going to stop a bucket, because a bucket is not a skill; it's a mentality. It is a mentality, right? So I remember playing in the Final Four, and my Texas team was so good that people had to decide who they were going to guard, who they were going to let have, because we were buckets. Like, we had 9 players averaging 13 points, right? So I'm shooting in the Final Four, and they decided to let me shoot. They were shot at the beginning of the quarter. We're like, okay, we can't stop inside. They're dominant inside. Let's try stopping the outside shot. And I remember taking a shot coming down in transition, and my point guard, Cammie Etheridge, who's the coach at Washington State, now shout out to my PG, came down, point guard, shook somebody, passed me the ball. It would have been a 3 if there had been a 3-point line, and I just shot it like in transition. And then I looked at Jody Conrad, and I'm like, are they really leaving me open? Like, what are you doing? Because that's how that's South Carolina. That's Connecticut. Those teams have so many buckets, you are not going to stop them. So you better be good at getting buckets as well as defending.
So I'm curious about Notre Dame, because we've heard so much about the vibe, not even any inside information. The vibes just don't feel good in South Bend right now.
What happened?
That's what we've been trying to figure out, because it looks so good at the beginning.
It was like Notre Dame, boom, pencil it in.
Yes.
South Carolina's not going to win. Notre Dame's going to give South Carolina a run. And it looked like that. And then it just went.
So can you get that back? Right? Like, who do you need in the locker room when things aren't going well, and like drawing on your time at Texas, when things aren't going the way you want them to go? Who has to be the one to talk? Like, is it the person who doesn't talk a lot whose voice carries? Is it the senior or the leader whose voice carries? Like, who's the person that you think has to kind of get everyone's heads together there and be like, this is not befitting of how good we are, and we can get right here if we all get on the same page?
Yeah, it depends on what's broken. Are you out of gas, or is your carburetor broken? I mean, those are 2 different things. Are you just tired? And it depends on what's broken. But I will tell you this, for championship imminent teams that are imminently going to win a championship, at the end of the year, it really becomes about how far the players can take the team over the hump. At the beginning of the season, preseason, all that, the coach's voice is very dominant in most cases, right? No absolutes, of course, to any of this. But this has been my experience as a player, as being on staff like a GA. The coach, dominant voice at the beginning, because you're setting the tone for the culture. You're doing all this. Okay, then the players take over, and then the players get you across. And so at the end of the year, this has got to be, I don't know who the leader is in that locker room or what's broken, but it is a player. It's got to be a player-led transformation.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I know that's what we were talking about and are looking for early, because I mean, Notre Dame, I mean, as a 3 seed, they are not a 3 seed caliber team. So there should be some level of like internal disrespect, even if it's kind of their own doing. Like, we can't believe we've let this happen. But
exactly,
I know we're on. I know we got to kind of set time here. I know you had a couple brackets, Fran. Yeah. But your Final Four, like, what are we thinking here? Who do we think is going to end up in Tampa Bay? We can kind of go across the regions here. I mean, we can start with your Longhorns. You mentioned TCU as a team you think can go deep into this? Yeah. But are they going to beat Texas and go to the Final Four deep, or are you still picking your Longhorns here?
It truly is. This season, more than any season I've seen, I do believe South Carolina is very dominant. I believe Connecticut is Final Four tested. We saw what they did last year, and had there been a better screen set, then
pretty much
might have been going to the Final Four. So I love Gino Auriemma, and he's a hell of a coach, and so the players have that coming. They got 10 or 11 championships coming into that.
Right.
So I did pick Carolina and Connecticut.
Okay.
Although I'm wondering about USC and UCLA. I'm wondering about that because there's a lot to be said for people who've been there, and neither of those teams have been there lately. So, but I picked UCLA for that. Right. And then I did pick Texas. Now, then when I did my next bracket, I said, okay, shake it. I'll get out, go change your clothes, get out of burnt orange, take it off because it's doing something that has powers.
It does. I understand.
Right? Get out of that and go pick somebody else. And I did. I can't remember who I ended up picking. My bracket is here.
Let's see. We got Notre Dame down here. TCU's down here.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Tennessee, those are like the higher end seeds there.
In one of my brackets I had Tennessee, and in another bracket I had Ohio State beating us.
Yeah. I mean look, I can respect taking the colors off, and look, I've been there. I get it. Like, sometimes I start talking about Texas, I gotta turn the hat around, turn some logos around. Right. Courtney Paris ball up here. I'm like, Courtney Paris, please don't look. I'm talking good about the Longhorns. Like, please. But okay, we got your. If this we'll roll with this Final Four. We'll roll with Texas in as this one for national championship. This Final Four, let's break down this Final Four and your picks here. Who are you rolling with here?
As I said at the beginning, getting to the finals is and making and winning the championship is a testament of who's gonna not be tired.
Yeah,
it really is. And if I use that criteria alone, South Carolina will win. And again, this is not an accident. Dawn Staley put together a squad that could stack you. Okay, this 5 is not doing well. Let me give you this other 5. Okay, y'all, that was my team at Texas. They just kept sending people in, and there's nothing you can do with that. And everybody has their own specialty. And Dawn's team, I heard somebody say, well, all her players look, they're the same. They're the same kind of player. And I said, no, they're not. They're uniquely different. They all play with the same mindset, though. They have the same mindset. So I see South Carolina being very difficult to beat simply because they can win the battle of fatigue. Then, I think Connecticut's dominance, just you can never count Connecticut out, right? Even when you don't like Gino, and you're tired of hearing about them. They just kind of somehow seep in there. I think the real emotional choice is UCLA. UCLA, because they do have all the pieces. They got Betts, they got guards, they play fun. Corey's a great coach. She's a great coach, and a great coach in what way? She knows how to coach offense. You got to know how to coach buckets. You can't have buckets on your team that you don't know how to coach. So she knows how to leverage what she has. She does the high-low. She has people taking people off the bounce. So I like those 3 teams as kind of teams that you can cheer for. Those are sure bets for you.
I love it. I love it. So before we let you go, because I know that you are heavily involved in Austin's WNBA expansion bid. We've heard Kevin Durant on the record talk about the possibility of bringing a team to Austin. If you could just give us the elevator pitch and kind of where we're at in terms of the groundswell of support. Is Austin a WNBA city? Are they ready for it?
Austin is definitely a WNBA city. So I'm sitting at the Texas women's basketball LSU game 4 weeks ago. It's alumni weekend. I want you to picture this. We're at Moody Center, gorgeous arena, sold out.
I was there. It was crazy.
It was amazing, crazy. Right?
Yes.
Student section is where the alumni, women's basketball alums, we had special treatment at halftime, all this stuff. And coming down to the wire, we may be up 3 points, and my phone goes ping, and I look down and it says breaking Cleveland to be the next WNBA thing, and I said out loud, "This is some bullshit." No, the arena went quiet, and I went, "This is some bullshit." Like, what is going on? No, but seriously, that did happen.
Yeah,
and I kind of knew already because you get back channeling, you get media texting you like, "Hey, I heard this," and I'm just like, "I don't want to talk to y'all. Don't talk to me." But basically, if you've read the trades and you know that the NBA has talked a lot about ROI for their investment in the WNBA, right? Like y'all owe us money. Y'all still owe us some money. Get these bills paid, and then we'll start giving teams to independent cities. And I really believe that's what's happening. I do believe the next few cities will be NBA owners so that they can recoup their return, get their return on investment. I don't know when they're going to allow an independent city like Nashville, like Austin, like Kansas City to get in there. I kind of feel like we're playing double Dutch. You're trying to get in. You don't know when you're going to get in. But our bid was extremely strong. Mark Lazary, who owned the Bucks, Jenny Billionaire, obviously Jenny Just, who was one of our other major investors, also billionaire, me, Kevin. Like, you don't get a better cap table than what we had. And if we had been an NBA owner currently, I believe we would have won the bid because everything was so great. So that's what happened with that. We remain interested. Our money is ready. We're very interested in owning W teams. We're pursuing other ways to get W teams. But for now, we don't know how long that's going to be. So I'm just doing the next best thing. I'm starting the league. I'm starting the women's league. I'm not getting the team, but I'm starting a league, and we're launching in April of 2026.
Oh, very nice. Can we get a quick minute on that before we
Yeah. Well, the reality is there's no place for women who don't make the WNBA or get those 20 spots overseas, right? And let's keep it above. There really aren't 144 spots. There's only 8 spots. You know what I mean? It's like there's only 10 to 15 spots that you're going to get. So what happens to the thousands of women who were as good as some of the people who got drafted? What do they have to retire because they didn't make it to the W or get one of the spots overseas? So we're filling that gap, that spot where it's your fringe WNBA, you maybe fringe overseas, but you shouldn't have to retire at 23 years old because there aren't enough professional spots for you. Juxtapose that with guys. I mean, old dude down the street from me who has a broke jumper but can leap out of the gym has 12 options. He can play D League. He can play, you know what I mean? So we want to make the playing ground a little bit more equal for women, more opportunities, fertile for women to have another place to play. So we're launching a league, and there will probably be between 8 and 12 teams, and we'll be revealing more about it as we go along. But we've set the date, headquartered in Austin. So I'd gotten Austin in such a frenzy for the WNBA. They're like, what are we doing? What are we doing with all this? Like, it's like a kid on candy. Like, what are we doing? So we're going to keep Austin excited about women's basketball. We've got some great stuff coming out for our league. It's called
That's the type of news that we love to hear.
Absolutely.
Fran Harris, one of the OGs of one of the greatest Texas teams, if not NCAA basketball teams of all time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Glad to have you on.